Get me that signal. We need more power.
Hey C2E2, thanks for coming out to the Dark Horse Builds Characters panel. Thank you. My name is Allie. I'm the editor-in-chief at Dark Horse. To my left is Tim Seeley. He's the creator of Sundowners for us and lots of other stuff, Revival, Hack Slash. To his left, Powell, creator of Goon, and Big and Chimichanga, and probably other stuff. And then we have from All Yeah Comics, we got Art Balthazar and Franco. We're going to talk about some of their books, we're going to mention a couple other things that we got coming up, and we're going to open it up to your questions. We'll probably talk for maybe like the first half of it, but hopefully you guys will have questions for these guys. So first up, I'm going to ask Eric to tell you a little bit about what we've been doing with the Goon, but last year we did a really brutal 4-issue miniseries called Occasion of Revenge. Trade paperback is out very soon as it came out. It just came out, it's out. And Once Upon a Hard Time is coming out now, so Eric.
Do we have flavor?
I was just testing it for you.
Yes.
Okay.
Tell them about all the terrible stuff happening in Once Upon a Hard Time.
It's the story, if you've read Occasion of Revenge, this was actually kind of envisioned as one big story that I was going to split into two. I want to do it kind of like Godfather 1 and 2. But I felt like if we released another series and called it Occasion of Revenge Part 2, people would think it was the second issue of the first series. Because people don't pay attention that much.
Not you guys.
Especially
you
to
guys
my
pay attention.
You guys are
It's
awesome.
those other guys that, you know.
Those idiots out there, man, they just don't get it.
Oh my God, here's one cha-cha. Put on the mask.
So, a buddy of mine in Nashville, who's a tattoo artist, we were drinking one night and we were just bullshitting. And I don't even remember in what context, but he said, we were talking about some kind of fairy tale thing. He's like, "Once Upon a Hard Time?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm going to steal that." I said, "Okay, it's yours." And so that sounded like a good title to turn the second chapter of this story into. It wasn't necessarily envisioned as a kind of wrapping up everything I've established in the Goon since the first issue, but as the story evolved, I kind of realized that's exactly what it was. So I'm kind of letting that happen, and yeah, you'll just have to read the last issue here and figure out what's going on with that.
One of the central mysteries, central ideas of Goon since very early on is the idea that there's really something wrong with this town.
Yeah.
And when you first started it, that wasn't really there at the very beginning, right?
That kind of evolved. Like, people ask me if Chinatown was laid out, if all this stuff was laid out from the beginning, and the only thing that I had in mind was something really bad happened to this guy and broke his heart in Chinatown, because with all noir, it seems like something bad happens in Chinatown. So I knew he got his scars and something really bad happened to him, but that story, kind of evolved over time. And that's the same thing kind of happened with this, because I never wanted to take the Goon out of the town. Every time I was writing a story, it was always just about, him and this weird old town. And then it kind of came to me, well, there's something wrong with it. That's why it's full of monsters and everything. It's attracting all this evil stuff. And that concept, kind of just evolved over time until it became actually the backbone of the entire kind of mythology.
And the town's not just full of monsters. It's like the town can't help but have bad things happen all the time.
No, it's cursed. I mean, no one can ever find happiness in this town. It's eventually going to, no matter what, eventually you're going to come to some kind of bad end. And it's kind of like, this story in particular is kind of explaining why that's the case.
Yeah, and we've seen glimpses of it before, like the Horse Eater's Woods, right?
Yeah.
Like through these things, we've seen stories about historical disasters in the town, but now it's like we're getting into the real implications of this curse on the town, right?
And why this coven of witches is so kind of hell-bent on taking it over.
Is there anything you want to say about where it'll go after this?
No, because there's something at the very end that the last page of the book that kind of lets you, gives a reveal of what's going on to happen next. So I don't want to give that away.
Right. We also have a Goon story coming up in Free Comic Book Day. May 2nd is Free Comic Book Day, and the Goon's in there with a great eight-page story, right? Fire. All right, going to shift gears for a second. This is not a character that Dark Horse had anything to do with creating, obviously, but we just did this book that is this incredible look at the history of a really major, icon from the 80s. And Tim, who we knew to be a major fan of He-Man, worked with his brother to put together this massive tombstone to his love of He-Man.
It's like 40 pounds worth of book.
And that's just the regular edition.
Yeah.
The limited is like 120 pounds.
Exactly.
The limited edition is an actual Castle Grace book.
It's a break from Castle. But Dark Horse was really cool about, I worked with them on doing the mini comics that came with the action figures when they did the re-release Master Universe Classics figures. And Scott is aware and sort of perplexed by my fandom of Masters of the Universe. Because he's just a little older than me.
Just a little older, so it was my little brother's stuff.
Yeah, right. So you're all like, Micronauts are awesome, He-Man is dumb. And, but yeah, when my brothers and I grew up in a very small town in central Wisconsin, and we didn't have any neighbor kids or anything, so it was just us. And playing with our toys together was like a big deal, and like this sort of, universes we created together was very influential on my eventual job to make crap up for a living. But when Dark Horse said, well, we want to do this art book, and we kind of feel like we have to ask you or you'll be mad, I was like, yes, I'm going to do it, but I'd really like to work with my brother on it, which was awesome. So Steve and I got to just, Mattel sent us this giant box of all this art that they had accumulated over the years with no idea of how to put it together.
Well, and Steve, let me just, about your brother for a second, like his brother it's not just like, oh, we got Seeley's brother. His brother's an amazing artist, an amazing,
he's a fine artist.
Gallery painter. But he's a fine artist who's really obsessed with really dumb stuff.
Yes.
Like Cardassians and He-Man.
Yes.
And he's done great paintings featuring He-Man.
Yeah, exactly. So it made sense to, that our aesthetic comes from this art. Like, my brother's aesthetic definitely comes from, he actually says that he thinks of colors if they would look good on a Master of the Universe figure. Because that's kind of how our, so we got together, yeah, I know, it's kind of scary, right? And you can actually tell if you look at the margins of stuff, like, that is a toy. You made that, that's like Manny Faces, basically, is that painting right there. But yeah, so we took all this art and we organized and requested and worked with the great Daniel Chabon at Dark Horse and their awesome graphic designer, put this book together, and we did it by going to a bar every Wednesday for 2 hours and drinking through conversations about He-Man, which we would have done anyway, but we got paid for it. Yeah, we got a really nice book out of it. So, yeah, it's out. It just came out April 15th, and I think it's in comic shops. It comes out in the wider world 2 weeks later. But I think it is. I had people hit me on Twitter once in a while and say, "No offense, but this is the best thing you've ever done," which is like, yeah, all that stuff I made up. Thanks. But I do think it turned out amazing, and Dark Horse was great, and Daniel sweat and bled for this thing. We worked with a bunch of people and got to interview Dolph Lundgren. I mean, no big deal, whatever. But yeah, so definitely check it out. If you're a Master Universe fan, I think you need it. And if you're just a fan of art and comics and sort of toys in general, you will enjoy it just because the process is amazing to see how they started with like this sort of vague idea for a barbarian that had a laser gun and ended up with this like sprawling story with all these little plastic figures that are still relevant somehow today.
And kind of evolving still.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, the end of the book kind of gives a peek into what they're working on, and that's even stuff that I'm like, I have no idea what the hell this is, but it's kind of cool to see what they're working on.
And there's an event at Chicago Comics in Chicago that they're teaming with Chuck's book publisher, Chuck Collins, creator of Fight Club, and we had Tim do a variant cover for that event. And this cover, you might look at that and be like, what the hell does that have to do with Fight Club? Chuck has a prose anthology coming out right before the Fight Club comic comes out, and it includes a sort of prequel to Fight Club that's set in, what is it? It's like
It's like 18
Hamburg
Yeah,
in
Germany.
like the 80s or 1890s. And so Tim did an image based on that, and it looks like there's a child in the background holding a banana. That is not a banana. That is something way worse than a banana. And when we worked it into the cover, Chuck was just like, there's never been one of those on a comic book cover before, has there? And I'm like, I don't think there has. And he was really excited about it. So you should read the short story Expedition, because it has the children of prostitutes in Hamburg, or wherever it is, doing really terrible things to tourists. And that's what Not a Banana is all about. And then another thing that Tim actually did make up, Sundowners. Sundowners is, we're doing 11 issues in total, right? You want to tell them what that book is?
Sundowners is about, it's basically a sort of exploration of mental illness and superheroics, and sort of based on the idea that in comic books or movies, when people dress up as superheroes, everybody goes, sweet. And then when it happens in the real world, as it has happened recently with people like Phoenix Jones and stuff, we instantly assume they're mentally ill, which we all do. So this is sort of idea that there's this group of people who all have a mental illness that compels them to put on costumes and punch people. And so they start to get together as this support group, which was kind of Fight Clubby, but they start to realize that maybe they are actually seeing what they think they all see and it's not a delusion, or they're all just crazy and feeding into each other. So it's a sort of, it's like, I guess I could describe it as like Kick-Ass meets like maybe like a weird Lovecraft sort of thing. But yeah, Dark Horse put out the first 6 issues in print, and the trade comes out, I believe, at the beginning of June. And then digitally, you can get it right now on the Dark Horse app. Issue 7 just came out, I believe issue 8 just came out. It's drawn by a guy named Jim Terry, who is really underrated, really awesome.
And he's here at the show.
He's here at the show, yeah. He's, I don't know what table it is. You can find him. He's the only American Indian comic artist in the alley, I'm sure. So yeah, find that guy.
Like Donny Osmond.
Yeah, he looks like a brown Donny Osmond. But yeah, it's a really cool book, and it sort of flew under the wire. I think it's really weird, so people weren't really sure what to think of it. But I'm really proud of it. I think it's in the vein of the kind of stuff I do, like Hack Slash Revival, and it's set in Chicago. So yeah, you can see the bean is on that cover. I think the much blighted bean is on that.
All right, cool. And again, questions from you guys when we get through the slideshow for any of these folks up here. All Yeah Comics. If you put All Yeah on something, it gets nominated for an Eisner. This book, these guys self-published this book, and then we do the collections, and it got nominated for an Eisner this year. And their store in Skokie got nominated for an Eisner.
No, the store got nominated for an Eisner.
Yeah, the store.
Spidey Titans got nominated.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
Skokie, our store in Skokie got nominated, and our store in Muncie, they both got nominated for the same award.
Well, tell them what.
Yeah, we're gonna do like
Wolfpack versus.
Yeah. So it's exciting.
One guy got it.
And we
That's your audience, right
It's
there.
exciting because we both got invited to San Diego Con this year, and we get to bring our wives, and they're flying us and giving us hotel and the whole thing. And this is just awesome to get nominated. Now I could actually enjoy the place and have a purpose. I could bring my wife to the Eisner and hold her hand and stuff. And we still got a publishing booth, but we're getting our other 2 guys to run the booth, so we don't have to. We're actually going to the show to walk around.
They told us that they're going to give us a personal assistant, and I said, what for?
Yeah. No, I want 2 of them.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about cosplaying as Walter White. You know, I think I'm Bryan Cranston because that's what he did.
My wife said, well, what are you going to do? I said, well, make it throw rose petals before us as we walk.
Yeah. I got a little kid playing the drums too. It's awesome.
But no, All Yeah Comics is our own characters. They're the mascots for our store, and all the adventures take place in and around Chicago and Skokie.
Yeah.
So you should definitely check them out.
Yeah, I didn't know it was coming out in June, so that's awesome.
Yeah, so this is the first trade paperback, and we're going to continue to collect.
That's volume 2.
That's volume 2.
Yeah.
Right, and we'll continue to collect the self-published issues,
Yeah,
right?
man.
Yeah.
Right on. And then the other thing that you recently did for us,
Yeah.
you
new mask.
Itty Bitty mask.
Herman
Because we asked you to.
Herman Shasper's a new mask, and the funny thing is he doesn't wear the mask until the last issue. but we, I'm proud I haven't read all the masks. I read the first trade when the movie came out and everything, but I think we did the first thing that no one's ever done is we put the mask on her grandma, and she started baking cookies and making pancakes and doing what grandmas do the best, making crocheting sweaters. It was kind of cool.
That is so common.
It was a big honor because I think it was the first mask comic in about.
Yeah,
It's been a while.
It was the 20th anniversary
Right.
of the character. Yeah.
And we were the first guys to do it in a long time, so it was a
Yeah.
big thrill. And we talked to Mike Richardson, and
Yeah.
we talked to Mike Richardson.
Yeah.
He's way up there. But
He's very tall.
yeah, he's not dead. He's just really tall. It was just an honor to be asked to work on a property like this, and just humbled by it.
Yeah, I didn't think he was going to let us do it. I really didn't. I thought he was going to say no, do something else.
And you guys just did whatever you wanted, basically, right?
Yeah, we couldn't use Jim Carrey in the
Right.
yellow suit, but that's it. That's the only rule. Like, I don't use him
And
anyway.
when we actually handed it in, they're like, I said to Art, I said, are they gonna actually let us do this?
Yeah.
And they said, yeah. And I'm like, all right.
Yeah, so I know me and Frank always try to push something in a kid's book that was going to make somebody question what we're doing. So I think by issue 3, we put a giant naked fat guy in the book. And everyone thought it was hilarious. So, you know.
But you gotta read the book.
Yeah, you got to read the book. I don't want to ruin it who that giant naked fat guy really is. He's somebody important.
Jim Carrey? Is he Jim Carrey?
We should throw him in there anyway. Yeah.
So that trade comes out June 10th, and we're in the middle of Grimace Island, right?
Yeah, River Sound number 2, I think just came out a week ago, maybe 2 weeks ago.
And that's an original thing that you first did it in MDHP years ago, right?
Yeah, and MySpace Presents, yeah. We did Grimace Island, and we did like 8 pages of Grimace Island, and we did Meteor Mike, which was 8 pages. And it was just exclusive for MySpace. And when you asked me what I want to do after Itty Bitty Hell Boy, the Eisner Award-winning Itty Bitty Hell Boy, I said, can I finish Grimace Island, what we started 4 years ago? And you said, yeah. And so it's an original concept, an original idea, original characters from our brains. And it's funny because Grimace actually came out, I think, in like 2009, 2000. It was not even 2000, maybe 2004, something like that. And he was a little character in our self-published Grim Reaper comic. And when we created him in that book, we thought of a whole bunch of cool stories. So the Grimace Island story has been in my head for like 15 years. So we're finally able to write it. It's really crazy. And once again, we're trying to push it where the parents are going to say, I can't show this. But then the kids are saying, that's so funny. So I learned that by watching TV with my kids. That I watch Gumball, that show Gumball, and Adventure Time, Gravity, all that. And whenever they show a butt, they go crazy. They laugh so much. So I knew that where I could push it up to, to the line but never cross. But we deal with demonology, voodooism, witchcraft. We do the devil shows up in issue 3.
Volcano Goddess wants to destroy the entire island of people.
We got witch doctors.
And it's all in his book.
Yeah, and it's so cool. I don't think anyone's naked in this one. They'll be naked in the first issue of Itty Bitty Hell Boy Volume 2, though.
Yeah, we got more Itty Bitty Hell Boy coming before the end of the year.
Looks like spoiler, yeah. But Roger lives on an island with a whole bunch of Rogers. It's the island of Rogers. There's only one pair of underwear. It's that thing he wears, and you find out what that button on his chest is for in this next group. And they go searching for the were-jaguar. Yeah, it's gonna be nuts. I told Mike Mignola that we were eating dinner with the guy, and so I'm telling him about what we want to do with the were-jaguar, and he's looking at me, and I thought he puts the fork on my well. Well, you know what you're doing. I was so nervous. I was like,
Get me that cigarette. We need more power.
All right.